Welcome to Open Studio with ManMakeMachine. Hi, my name is Bundu Sitole, and today we are discussing the fourth industrial revolution and especially installations that are happening right now with regards to internet solutions in Khayelitsha and other areas that we might be talking about in rural areas and what happens in those areas as well. All the challenges and all the disadvantages and advantages that actually occur on site. So my guests today are Dan, Kunrad, and Lwetu. So guys, please introduce yourselves. And from there, we'll just talk a bit about Khayelitsha and probably Eastern Cape and all of that, whatever installations that we've done. So yeah, Dan?
Hi everyone, thank you for inviting me again.
Awesome.
My name is Makabongo Metruso. Most people call me Dan. I'm a founder of a company called Aptitude Solutions. We create interactive videos that allow brands and publishers to enable their viewers to click on a content, and with those viewers that have intent to purchase can buy directly from the video.
Awesome.
I also tutor high school kids, maths and science, and I'm currently also doing a permaculture design course with Seed organization.
Wow. Yeah, so teaching kids is a pretty difficult thing to do. So yeah, I commend you for that. Conrad?
Morning, Buntu. My name is Kunrad Loebser.
Yeah.
I'm currently with a technology consultancy called ManMakeMachine.
Yep.
And my history is in telecommunications and software. And I have helped a lot of people to start their own internet service providers.
Awesome. Lwetu.
Okay, I'm Lwetu. I'm from the BU. Currently doing a registration to a data of Lulaway for unemployed people.
Khayelitsha.
And I'm doing a after school program. Ndincedisa abantwana ngendima zesikolo and plus the homeworks plus the computers.
Ndake ndanibona phaa ngenye imini ndivela kwi-installation yabona uba bayafundisa nyhani and bayachaza uba hayi awuvele nje ube rich, sometimes you have to work hard to get rich. So ndiyayithanda into eniyenzayo phaa elula webhutwana. So let's talk about the installations that are happening in Khayelitsha, because I know both of you guys were part of the installations. Kunrad was there to do the setup and the configuration of the sites. I know that you were a huge part of. And I know you were part of the Eastern Cape installations and what happened that side. So Dan, tell me, how did you feel? What was your experience of the installation in A section in Monabisi Park in Lovin?
Well, okokuqala I was quite excited that the internet is now coming to abantu like in Lovin, you know, it's squatter camp. So it was quite exciting, and I remember thinking maybe it's going to be difficult, there's going to be a lot of things to do, but it was quite simple as well to do the installation, especially with Conrad being there. It was quite helpful.
So what kind of difficulties did you experience that day when you yourself?
Climbing the ladder, because it was quite tall.
It's quite tall, and that building is quite high, and it's quite scary.
It's quite high, and if you still remember, there was also a lot of wind when we were doing the installation. But other than that, it was fairly simple. I think you don't really need to know much to be able to make the installation. If you can handle power tools, you're not afraid of heights, then you can do it.
Yeah, but you remember the situation that day, we forgot one thing, and that was U-bolts. And the whole installation couldn't happen that day because we just installed batteries, obviously, and all of that, but then we only had to do next day because we just forgot what? U-bolts. Something small as U-bolts made the whole thing not work in that same day. So yeah, Conrad, tell us more.
Well, so I like to say that anybody can do it, and anybody really can do it, but it's very important that you learn from people who have done it for a long time, because they can save you a lot of time and a lot of effort. So what I think is the absolutely most important thing is that you understand that just because you are poor or you from a disadvantaged background doesn't mean that you should get a second-rate connection. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, you can get the best connection. I've helped people in the Eastern Cape build better connections than are available in Cape Town on fiber.
Yeah. What was the speed there? Just tell us, let's just boast about it. What was the speed?
So this community owns an ISP there.
Yeah.
It's all the old people from the community who make the decisions. They're the owners, and they do it for the young people there.
Yeah.
And they are selling to other internet service providers in the area. So at this point, they're selling 750 megabits
Wow.
to 3 other internet service providers.
Yeah.
And in their own community, where most of the sites don't even have ESCOM, and there are no taps, there's no infrastructure.
Yeah.
But the last time I was there and I did a speed test, I got 150 megabits on my phone. 150 megabits is faster than most people's fiber.
Yo, that's awesome, eh? Yeah, that's crazy awesome. And remember that I know what happened that side, and I know that you are actually responsible for a lot of what happened that side and why the connection actually worked. So I commend you for that part of everything that you did that side and what you're doing for people around in South Africa. And I know in Khayelitsha we're actually going to do exactly the same, going to be using pretty much exactly the same model, but through ICASA, and we're going to make things work a bit better, I would say, a bit more smoother. So Letu, what was your, what do you think? What was your experience at installation yakho program?
Yeah, okay, prior to was learning.
Learning, ne?
Yeah, that much I can say. Okay, no, it's complicated, but the way ninzi ngakhona niyenza ndabona something that okay, anyone is able to kwenza nantoni na akafikela khona, because ezantambo zino zininzi and ziya confuse.
Yeah.
But
Stripe orange.
yeah. So now if ingakwazi ufumana nje equipment, so I'm like, I can put it into internet on my own.
Yeah.
Without bantu uyifundela or whatsoever. Lino nenza inhle kakhulu bras.
Inhle kakhulu program. So guys, we're going to have to go to an ad break quickly. After the ad break, we're going to be discussing a bit more about installations and what could go wrong and all of that. Thanks. And guys, we are back from that awesome break. So right now we are going to be discussing the disadvantages and advantages of on-site installations and what exactly is PPE and why do you need it on-site. So Dan, tell me about these shoes that you're wearing. Is that PPE does the regulations for PPE actually accept those kind of shoes, or is it like not good enough?
Well, yeah, these are safety boots.
Yeah.
They steel-toed, so these as protective, personal protective equipment, which is PPE. Yeah. So it protects you if something would fall on it. You know, it wouldn't hurt my toes.
Yeah.
But it won't protect me from heights, though.
Yeah. So what would? It's a harness, right? I imagine. And making sure that everything is in place.
Yeah, a harness would help, and also if we worked like I said earlier, it was quite windy when we were doing the installation, so the weather, having an understanding of the weather and choosing a less windy day to actually do an installation, I think that would help. Yeah.
And do you think that we could have prevented the wind, like predicted that the wind would have been there that day? Because remember, in Rovini, Monabisi Park has those hills, and you never can predict anything pretty much. So do you think that was a possibility for us to do that?
Well, it won't be easy, but it is possible to predict, or
through watching the weather or something. You think so? Okay, awesome. Next time we'll probably do that. And Conrad?
Yeah, I think it's very like you don't necessarily have to put the antenna at the highest place. So, and if you had all the training and all the tools on hand and you stay there, then there's no need for you to do it like on a windy day. You can just wait until the next day, and the windy day you can you can learn more about the network routing or configuration or something like that.
Mm.
So, but there are some things that you do need training for.
Like?
While working at heights.
Mm. What's the highest point that you can actually climb on a ladder?
Well, I don't know if
a
that's
license.
I don't know if that's a very safe question to ask because you shouldn't climb very high on a ladder. Ladders can slip very easily, and if you fall off the ladder and you break something, you're going to have a really hard time.
Compensation fund. Something towards that end. But yeah, what other opinions do you have about
Not
it?
going to compensate you for what you've lost.
Yeah.
So-
losing a leg or something.
So you have to be very careful, and you have to make sure that you're working with people that understand what needs to be done and how to do it, because they can save you a lot of time and a lot of effort. So what I think is important is to encourage people, or to reassure people that they will learn to understand it. Like, even if there are words or jargon that you don't understand yet, you don't have to necessarily work very hard to understand it. All you need to do is you have to ask yourself the question that, can I learn this?
Yeah.
And you don't even have to give yourself an answer. Your mind will absorb.
else has done it,
If
so
you have
you
the
can do
intent to learn something, and if you see something that's interesting to you, and you ask yourself, can I learn that? Your mind will answer you, and if you give it time, it will learn it.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, the most difficult thing for me to learn was actually the crimping part of it, and organizing the wires correctly. That orange thing and green and stripe green, or that kind of stuff. That was pretty crazy for me. But once I had gotten used to it and done it probably 100 times, then I understood, okay, no, this thing is actually easy. I can do it all the time, even while I'm asleep.
That's pretty cool. Like,
Probably
you've
do
made
it.
more than 100 network cables, and
Yeah.
each of those cables is carrying information for somebody.
right now. Yeah.
People are sending messages through those wires that you made.
Yeah.
Loretta, you also made some cables.
Yeah.
And I think, yes,
Cables.
your cables are being used there, for people using the network, they're using the cables that you made.
At Lulawe.
Yeah. I would say so, but that thing of yours is too complicated, my brother.
What do you think? Tell us more
I-
about installations, especially your installation that we did at your
Okay.
place.
My installation
What
wasn't
happened
that
that day?
much hard, because we didn't have to climb. Each and everything, okay, was in a right space. Yeah. But the problem on that day, okay, and install a Pagola side lamp,
Yeah.
I was still lost. Yeah,
Yes.
but bensibanga emehlo.
And wawungowokuqala.
Exactly. Bensibanga emehlo nenza ntoni nantoni nantoni yabo. So I did ukuyifumana yonke laa nto leyana till that akafikelela xesha lasendlovini where wandinika la satellite dish uba mandihambe ndoyi-install. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's where I proved really so lam uba okay, it's like no.
So
Because
these training
Zimbabwe.
sessions ezithetha ngazo esibanazo.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yangathi we shedding some light kuba okay ngoku isebenza kanjani le nto wangani ungathi uya-understanda kancinci.
Kakhulu. Exactly.
Uyavakala. Okay. So, guys, if there was a kid, what would you say to him that wants to actually start and do this thing and start their own community network in Khayelitsha, Philippi, Kukuletu? Who should they contact? You know what I mean? What do they do?
Speaking on that, you mentioned something that okay, no, you want the whole Khayelitsha have internet. So that question, that was a question that I was going to ask you.
Yeah, man.
Because okay, no, you brought in internet in Lovin, in informal settlement. Yeah? So people are willing to do that thing. Yeah, but because you said okay, no, if people want to learn, you can learn them.
Yeah.
So abantu bendibuza ke since okay no yayisenzeka pha emsebenzini wami ubuntu lana oyathetha ngayo uzawuza nayo nini.
Yeah.
So now abantu elokishini bayayifuna bra.
Yeah. intle ke loo nto ndiyithanda kanye xa ibamba kanjalo because into esiyenzayo ngoku kaloku ezi training sessions esizibamba no-VPU is exactly meant for that uba abantu mabaze bazosichazela uba hey buntu siyayithanda le nto uyenzayo nawo bafana uze nabo apha sicela nathi sizoyenza ukuyenza kwethu sithathe ke sithengise ii-vouchers and then senze imali for the community yethu eyifumani so ke yinto esizama uyi-explaina leyo ebantwini uba injalo into ndizawusebenza kosake sayenza nakwenye indawo. But guys, we have to go to an ad break right now, and after the ad break we'll go into this topic a bit further. And guys, we are back from that awesome break. I am from ManMakeMachine, and if you want to get a hold of us and ask us more questions about installations, you can go to manmakemachine.com or contact myself directly at King Klaba on Facebook. So right now, we are still discussing how installations work and how maintenance works on site and the disadvantages and advantages. So let's just continue on that, guys. When it comes to maintenance of a site, how do you go about that? Does it need to be maintained every day or every week? How does monitoring work? If I have a light beam or like a device installed, do I have to change it every 5 years? Tell me more about that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so it's very important that you do your planning properly and you know what you're going to install. Well, you know, you can get away with just opening like the cupboard and seeing what you have there and taking what you think you need and going out and making a connection that you want to make.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do things like that, it might turn out to take 3, 4, 5 times as much time as when you just sat down and you went through a checklist that showed you, that helped you think what am I going to need for this, and how should I do this properly so that I don't have to change something next month or next year. So
what do you think, Dan?
The installation, in my view, doesn't require that much maintenance once it's set up. The important thing, I definitely agree with Conrad in the planning. You mentioned earlier that we forgot U-bolts, and that really just halted the whole operation. So it's very important that people actually get all that they need.
Prepare prior to the installation. Awesome. Wena, what do you think? Ngale installation specifically wa intoni yenzeka asalibala ntoni wayasenza nje kahle ngokwakho
yenzeka kahle kudala but the problem is ndiye namane ndiluza internet most of the time and now uyayazi lento leyo and yayibi into nje incinci just nje into cable so you have to be
so just to explain a bit more with the cable. So it took me a whole week to figure out that it was a cable on the roof of Harare Square in Khayelitsha that was creating a problem with the network. So what happened is that I had to go through a whole cycle, first check if the network actually works, basically ping the computers, plug the Ethernet cable into my laptop, and then speak to Conrad, and then make sure that everything actually works the way it's supposed to work before I had, and then there was a firewall as well behind that. So because there's a firewall, I couldn't get through to do certain things. I had to do things manually and all of that. So it took me a whole week just to figure out that there was one cable that was damaged on the green wire. So there's 8 wires on an Ethernet cable, and if one of those wires gets damaged, that whole network is down. So you can imagine if it took me a whole week, and I know so much about internet and Ethernet cables and all of that, and it took me a whole week. Imagine what it would take someone in Khayelitsha. So that's why we want to actually help people start their own networks, but at the same time, we want them to have that backing from us to actually know that, okay, they've got someone they can phone if they have a big problem that they can't solve themselves. But yeah, what do you think about that, Conrad? Did I say it correctly?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah. So in that case, it's wherever you work, you sometimes have to work with things that other people have done before you, and you don't always know what the quality of those installations are.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of companies and a lot of people prefer to just redo everything, because then they know they did it and they know it's up to a certain standard. So it's a decision that you have to make, depending on how much time and resources you have access to.
Yeah.
So, but having, it's also, it would be easy to think, oh, if you just have good documentation, then if you have a problem, you can just look at the documentation to find out where to start looking for a problem. But the big problem with building networks like this is that creating the documentation sometimes takes longer than actually building the network. So if you have limited time and you want to build a network, are you going to build the network, or are you going to write the documentation on how you build the network? So you're going to build the network. So something that we've spent a lot of time thinking about is, what is the minimum documentation that you need? And how can we create the documentation automatically while you are building the network?
Yeah, awesome. So guys, the next question that I have is about scaling. So if you run a company now, or besides a company, it's a community network in Khayelitsha or wherever. Now you've got 50 clients. It's not that difficult to run 50 clients. But then when it gets to like 5,000 clients, how do you manage something like that? I'm sure there's different, challenges that you meet up with that differ from 50 people to 5,000 people, especially financial challenges, accounting and revenue collections, micropayments and all of that. How would you guys, what do you guys think about that?
That's a very good question, and I think the simple answer is, don't try to do everything yourself. You can, if you just look at what people are willing to pay for a connection, and you work out what it's going to cost you to build this connection, and what all the equipment is going to cost, and what your internet connection is going to cost, then you might realize that you only need to help to connect 20 people or 30 people. So, or maybe you're lucky and there's a business that needs a very fast connection and they're willing to pay more for that connection. So you connect the business, you learn how to build the best connection that you can build, and then you sell that connection to the business. And because of the technology is usually much, much faster than the internet that you can get access to. So that business might be willing to pay for a 10 megabit connection or a 50 megabit connection, while the connection that the equipment that you install for the business actually provides 100 megabits or 150 megabits or 200 megabits. And just because that business now has that connection in place and the connection is there, and they're only using 10 megabits, that means you have like all this spare capacity on that link that you can now use without having to purchase more equipment. And it's things like that that allows you to build a viable business with just a small number of clients. And that's how I started.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So guys, quickly, how do we get connected with you guys? Facebook, Twitter, what's up?
You can find me on Twitter at dmetuso, or via email, it's mmetuso@gmail.com.
Yep, Conrad?
I like Twitter because it's easy to converse with a lot of people. I'm at Dagelf, DAGELF.
Yeah, and Betu?
And I'm on Facebook. I'm Olwetutulwan. Email olwetutulwan@gmail.
Awesome. So guys, that's a wrap. Next time we'll be talking about something even cooler. So yeah, catch you next time.